You're about to watch what we call an extended clip of the Young Turks, and the reality is it's somewhere in the middle. It's a little longer than our YouTube clips, but it's actually shorter than the whole 2-hour show, which you can get if you're a member. You can get it ad-free, and make sure you catch every news story we do that day. You're gonna love it as a full show. That's at tytnetwork.com/join. Thanks for watching. Welcome to the Young Turks. I'm your host, Cenk, and I'm threatening to do an excellent show for you guys. Let's see if I can deliver on that threat. I've got a lot of stories for you guys. A lot of them are chow, tiny, miny stories. They're important, but they're quick. So, of course, guns are enormously in the news. We'll give you context there and give you stats that other people don't give you, and facts as well. That's what I hope you partly turn to us for, which is context and analysis. And a little bit later in the program, how divided is the country? I think that story is a little haunting. Yeah, I use the word haunting. And then, of course, Anna's going to come in and have more stories for you, including political stories, like Donald Trump maniacally denying a story that cannot be denied. Of course! And banking deregulation in the second hour. Because, hey, why not celebrate the 10th anniversary of financial collapse caused by the banks by letting the banks run wild? So that's a little bit later in the program. Let's go over here and do the show. Okay. Donald Trump with actual good news today. Okay. Oh, thank God. They're going to ban bump stocks. It is a tiny amount of gun control. It was largely relevant, of course, in the Las Vegas massacre that happened, where 58 people were killed and hundreds injured. It was not relevant in the Parkland, Florida shooting that just happened, but I will take it. Thank God at least something is on the board here. And he said just a few moments ago, this was earlier today, just a couple hours ago, said just a few moments ago, I signed a memo directing the Attorney General to propose regulations that ban all devices that turn legal weapons into machine guns.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Oops. No, wait, those are all wrong. I meant this. Oh, finally, a tiny piece of gun regulation. But like I said, credit where credit is due. So it was something the NRA said they're willing to do because it's not something they sell a lot of. So it doesn't go to the heart of the weapons manufacturers' sales. It's an easy one to let go, but great, I'll take it. Good news, wonderful. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, how's that for simple? Okay. All right. I let it linger too long. Here comes JR with cynicism. Go.
I tried. I was sitting there. I was like, yeah. No, I'll keep looking at the iPad. No, I have to. Okay, so just like with anything else, trust but verify. Let's wait. Now this is the president now saying it. Oh, I put out there that there should be a regulation. Let's wait and see what Jeff Sessions says and does. Let's wait and see what Congress says and does in response. I'm not sure if they even have to be a part of this. Just putting out. I asked him. Or I'm signing something to tell him I officially said do something. So will he?
Well, I mean, look.
Or are we just going to forget and say, oh, I remember that time Trump was totally for gun regulation. He cares about the kids. Move on.
Yeah. So, of course, JR's skepticism is warranted given the track record of this administration. So, for example, Trump said, oh, yeah, I signed the bill authorizing the Russian sanctions, and then just never enforced them. And then the NRA after Las Vegas said, oh, we'll work with you guys to ban bump stocks. And then later was like, yeah, just kidding. Nope, no, we won't. We'll continue to sell bump stocks. But that was on a list of like, what can we give the rest of the country so that they'll be quiet and move on? Okay, this is literally the smallest thing we can give them, where you turn semi-automatic weapons into fully automatic weapons with a piece of equipment we rarely ever sell, and that is only used in massacres. All right, let's give them that. So don't mistake me for overly celebrating, but at the same time, look, I want to encourage the right decisions and the right actions, and I don't care who takes them. So if it's Trump taking the right action, no matter how small it is, I'll take it. And yes, we will follow up and verify. Okay.
Okay, fine.
All right, we have concession from JR. Fine. Okay. All right. Now let's move forward. Okay, this is a more disturbing story. So as most of us in the country, I hope almost all of us in the country, were horrified at what was happening in Parkland, Florida, as there was this massacre at a school on Valentine's Day. By the way, the original Valentine's Day massacre was 7 people, and they were all related to gangs that were running around at the time because of Prohibition. This one was 17 people. They were innocent school children, 14 of them, 3 of them were faculty members. So what was considered giant massacres before are now considered much smaller events. These massacres are overshadowing other ones from our history. Anyway, as we were all horrified, apparently the White House had a different reaction to the shooting. So we go to the Washington Post. They explain that some aides privately acknowledged that the tragedy offered a breather from the political storm. Well, I'm glad you're relieved. Now, to be fair, at that point, the White House was engulfed in a number of scandals, the smallest one being air travel being charged to the American taxpayers, a scandal they've gotten involved in with before, and then 2 cabinet secretaries again abusing taxpayer money. And then, of course, there was the Rob Porter scandal about how he had been charged with domestic abuse. The FBI had told the White House, and then the White House seemed to have ignored that for a long period of time. And then, of course, there was Russia, and of course, there was Stormy Daniels, and another affair that the president apparently had that was revealed. But on the other hand, that's Tuesday at the Trump White House. They're always engulfed in scandal because they're always doing insane, ridiculous things. So, but apparently they were relieved that they could take a break from that and just focus on massacres happening at schools across the country. Now, did they have a plan of action? No, they had a plan of inaction, generally speaking. And Trump came out and said, now everybody remember, be cool. Let's not do anything about this for quite some time. And just thoughts and prayers. And by the way, let's blame it on the mentally ill. Okay, so now look, you can say, hey, Washington Post, you claim those are insiders, but do you have any quotes? Yeah, they do. So here's a quote from a White House official. For everyone, it was a distraction or a reprieve from their political problems while kids were being murdered. It's not what I would call a reprieve. Okay, but I guess it is for them. That I wouldn't call it a reprieve because I would actually care about those kids who got killed. But maybe a little bit of a difference over there. All right, White House official again, quote, a lot of people here felt like it was a reprieve from 7 or 8 days of just getting pummeled. Oh, I'm sorry, were you getting pummeled? You were getting pummeled politically on some issues that you created, whereas the people down in Florida were getting murdered by heavy weaponry and suffering a massacre. But you were getting pummeled politically and you were relieved to have a reprieve. Okay. Now, this is not the first time that they've been relieved in a situation like this. More from the Washington Post. The official likened the brief political calm to the aftermath of the October shooting in Las Vegas that left 58 dead and hundreds more injured. That tragedy united White House aides in the country in their shared mourning for the victims and their families. Ashley Parker and Philip Ruck were reporting there. So it's apparently a double bonus for the Trump White House. One, you stop focusing on all of our scandals for a day while you have to go cover the massacre. And number 2, we get to pretend that we're all on the same side. Oh, we share your grief and we suffer along with you. Are we going to do anything? Absolutely not. And in fact, we're going to take a couple of days to regroup politically. And that is exactly what Ron Bongine, a Republican strategist close to the White House, said. At least he said it publicly. He said, the national tragedy in Florida has really, for now, turned the page on some of these crises. That's a third win. You forgot to ask them about all their scandals or continue to ask them about Rob Porter or all the affairs. Now, Russia is hard to ignore. And of course, you had the giant indictments coming from Mueller. So that continues to be in the news cycle. But look, to be fair, every White House is acutely aware of what is in the news cycle and what moves uncomfortable stories out, et cetera. I don't know why they celebrate. It's only a matter of time before they get themselves into bigger messes anyway. What are they going to do? Wait for another shooting, for another reprieve? But last thing on this, guys. Who in the White House is stupid enough to share this publicly? God, they're so dumb. Even if you all thought this internally and you're just celebrating and high five, yes, another massacre. We're off the hook for this news cycle. And we'll take a couple of days to figure out what we're going to say. In other words, how we're going to lie our way out of this one because we hadn't come up with good lies yet. So by the way, that political strategist Ron Bongine talks about that too. He says they're going to come back, but what it does do is give the White House a chance to collect itself, and if they can, organize a communication strategy and get their ducks in a row. Okay, must be great for them. At least have the decency to shut up about it. Okay. Now, speaking of not having the decency to shut up, let's go to Jack Kingston.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of On the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, "You must unlearn what you have learned." And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
Okay. Former Republican Representative Jack Kingston was on CNN with Alison Camerotto. She doesn't let people get away with anything, so I'm not sure he picked the right show to try to pull this maneuver. He decided that he was going to launch a conspiracy theory about how it wasn't the students who were upset and want to rally against gun violence and for gun control, that it was actually nefarious left-wing groups. I would think that the students had pretty good grounds to be upset and pretty good motivation to organize, but apparently Jack Kingston doesn't think so. And by the way, just a little bit of context here. This is the guy who was often called a moderate Republican and enabled by guys like Bill Maher, who would have him on his show all the time as some sort of so-called moderate. Now, let's see if that's the case. Watch this.
You're serious? You think these kids aren't acting on their own volition?
Allison, I think it's a horrible tragedy, and I'm heartbroken that young people have gone through this, and I hope that it never happens again. But I also know that their sorrow can very easily be hijacked by left-wing groups
but do you think
who have an agenda. Well, let's ask ourselves, do we really think that, and I say this sincerely, do we really think 17-year-olds on their own are going to plan a nationwide rally?
Jack.
I would say to you very plainly that organized groups that are out there like George Soros are always ready to take the charge, and it's kind of like instant rally, instant protest.
Okay, so who would look at this massacre and say, really, these kids who saw their best friends murdered in front of them would be motivated and able to pull off a rally? Who would be that deeply cynical, bad guy, whatever adjectives you want to use, right? And those are the light ones. Well, you got to understand something that's important for context here. It's the hardest thing in the world is to escape your own perspective. And from a Republican perspective, every rally is financed by some outside billionaire or multinational corporation. Every movement is financed by lobbyists and donors. They don't have any independent thought. They come in, they get memos, and they do as they are told. So Jack Kingston normally projects. He thinks, well, whenever I am part of some sort of organized protest or rally, it's some billionaire or millionaire or corporation that put it together, and I got my marching orders, in that case literally, and I showed up. So for example, when the Tea Party happened, the original rallying cry, if you will, was, hey, the bailouts. We don't want the bank bailouts. They're taking our taxpayer money and giving it to these bankers who collapse the economy. That's actually a rallying cry I totally agree with. A lot of liberals and progressives would have joined those Tea Party rallies if that's what they were about. But they weren't. That's what they were mad about. But they never did a single protest about Wall Street. Not one. Why? Because giant buses pulled up, and this has been tracked, unlike Jack Kingston's conspiracy theories, this was shown. The Koch brothers pulled up buses that already had paintings against Obamacare put onto the buses, okay? And they showed up with donuts and said, hey, everybody, you're really mad at financial speculators. Well, that's inconvenient. We're financial speculators. So get on the bus and let's go to a rally against Obamacare so that you guys can't get health care when you need it. And they were like, oh, okay. And then they got on the bus. Since that's what the Republicans do, Jack Kingston thinks, well, the Democrats must do the same. No, these kids actually saw their friends get killed. And Alison Camerota is going to straighten it out anyway because she was down there. She talked to them as they were doing the organizing. And she doesn't mention it in the clip you're about to see, but I don't believe she spotted George Soros in the crowd. Here, let's watch.
Jack, I'm sorry. I have to correct you. I was down there. I talked to these kids. These kids were what, Jack? These kids were wildly motivated. I talked to these kids before they knew the body count of how many of their friends had been killed. No, Jack, no one had talked to them yet. They hadn't been indoctrinated by some left-wing group. They were motivated from what they saw and what they endured during that ordeal.
I don't doubt their sincerity.
Yes, you do, Jack.
I absolutely know these children are heartbroken, but I also know they probably do not have the logistical ability to plan a nationwide rally without it being hijacked by groups that already had the pre-existing anti-gun agenda.
Jack, it's just silly. They're already doing it. They're on buses going to the state legislature today. They're 17 years old. They can figure this out. But
they have the money for the bus, and they're ready to go. I mean, I just have a hard time believing.
See, because he has a hard time believing they got the money for the bus because whenever they do a rally, somebody already provided the bus and it was one of their donors. So the reality is, yeah, the kids are doing fundraising right now, and a lot of people are happy to give them money because they're outraged by what happened. And of course, it's the Republican idea of the young too, like a bunch of millennials. Of course, how could they possibly do it without a billionaire backing them? Bunch of idiots. Of course, they can't organize. Wrong. They can organize. They did organize. It was them. Okay, my favorite part of that was Camerota though going, Jack. Okay, now finally, let's let the kids respond. Here's one of the students, Brandon Abzug.
I think it's very despicable that he would even have the audacity to say that. Young people all across this country and over the world should feel that they have the power to make things right. And especially in the wake of a tragedy, we really show who we truly are. So to say that just because we're young, we can't make a difference is not right. And he should apologize for that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Jack Kingston's apology. He's a Republican, so that is very, very unlikely to happen. One more time, the reason why Republicans see Soros behind everything in America, or every left-wing idea or movement or protest, is because there is the Koch brothers or the Mercers or incredibly rich donors who would like tax cuts and deregulation behind every Republican protest and rally and movement. So that's why they naturally think they must be likewise. No. Jack, I got news for you. There are actual citizens in this country who care about things, and they don't need a billionaire to tell them to care. They actually care, and they actually want action. Not everyone in the country is bought like you. Okay, now, How can it get worse than that? Come on. They're Republicans. Of course it's going to get worse than that. Let's go to the next story. Okay. So, Republicans are, of course, going to attack the kids who were shot in Parkland, Florida. We were speculating at the Young Turks production meeting when Donald Trump would start to attack the kids. First of all, let's do a countdown on that. Tick tock, until he himself goes after the kids in a tweet. But Donald Trump went after them, Donald Trump Jr., and of course with crazy conspiracy theories. We'll get to that in a second. Just a quick quote from others as well. Of course, Jack Kingston, former Republican representative, saying that George Soros must have put the kids up to it because these kids couldn't possibly organize anything on their own, etc. And then you had Ben Shapiro saying, what, pray tell, did these students do to earn their claim to expertise? They were present during a mass shooting, and they have the right point of view, according to the left. So we're just going to dismiss that. They saw their friends get shot in front of their own eyes. They saw 17 murdered bodies in the hallways of their schools and outside. What expertise do you guys have about gun control? I'd say that's pretty good expertise. That's pretty good experience with the damage that these weapons can cause. So, look, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't quote facts and stats, and we've got plenty of that. The more shootings the more guns there are in a country, the more mass shootings you have. And that is a verifiable fact shown over and over again. There's 130 studies that show more guns lead to, very unsurprisingly, more gun homicides. Wow, what shocking revelations. And I'm sure that Shapiro and his like will find one study by a conservative paid by some sort of gun manufacturer to say, no, guns actually spray out rainbows and unicorns and make people really happy when they hit them. So, but yes, these kids have an absolute right to speak out. I would argue no one has a better right to speak out than the kids who were there and saw the massacre with their own eyes. So now that leads us to Donald Trump Jr. So, as Mediaite explains, Donald Trump Jr. touted a post on a fringe right-wing conspiracy website early Tuesday morning that slammed a high school student and survivor of the Florida school shooting, even suggesting the teen is an FBI plant. Of course he did. Is there non-fringe conspiracy theory spreading right-wing websites?
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
I mean, I don't know of any Breitbart, all these pundits. I mean, they all have insane conspiracy theories, from Pizzagate to everything else. So, of course, they have these loathsome theories, and of course, Donald Trump Jr. wants to tweet it out. So here's a tweet that he retweeted, and it explains there that video, outspoken Trump-hating school shooting survivor is son of FBI agent. Mainstream media helps prop up incompetent bureau. So you know how they know or deduce that he was the son of an FBI agent? He said it. He's not hiding it. He said it in interviews that his dad is a retired FBI agent. But I guess since now the new conservative ideology is that they hate cops, they're like, great, let's use this as an excuse to blame the FBI, the top law enforcement officials in the country. Like, aha, this kid conveniently at a massacre where he could have been murdered because his dad is a retired FBI agent because the FBI wanted to do what? I don't know, but I want to blame the FBI because they're investigating my daddy. In Donald Trump Jr.'s case, that is literal. For the others, it's more figurative. So he's not done yet. TruePundit.com, in that article that Donald Trump Jr. liked so much, says David Hogg is a school shooting survivor in Florida. At least that is what the mainstream media has told us. We wouldn't be surprised by anything involving the FBI at this point. And so what would that be? I don't know. Can you tell me what that would be? What, they put a kid there in harm's way? Is he pretending that his father's in the FBI? Well, why would he pretend that? Wouldn't that show the conspiracy? Or no, his father's actually in the FBI and they wanted the shooting for what reason? And okay, I get that you're blaming the FBI for not doing more on this story so that you could have the head of the FBI fired because he won't fire the special counsel investigating your daddy. But what does that have to do with the kid being at the school? Like, do you really think that was a plant of some sort? I don't know why I'm asking these questions to lunatics. Of course they do. Here, I'll give you the last tweet. So One American News tweets out, and that's another right-wing lunatic organization, linking to another right-wing lunatic organization, Gateway Pundit, who might be the craziest of them all. So they tweet, could it be that this student is running cover for his dad, who works as an FBI agent at the Miami field office, which botched tracking down the man behind the Valentine's Day massacre? Just wondering, just connecting some dots. But first of all, he didn't run any cover. He didn't say, go out there and be like, oh, the FBI is awesome. He didn't say the FBI didn't do anything wrong. He didn't say the cops didn't do anything wrong. He didn't say anything about that. He just told people, hey, my friends got murdered here. Can we do a little bit of gun control so that more kids at schools don't get murdered? What? I literally don't know what you're saying. And just saying connecting some dots doesn't actually mean you're connecting any dots. Like, connecting which dots to what? Like, they say that, and unfortunately, there's a lot of crazy people in this country who love conspiracy theories. So all you have to do is now, you don't even have to prove anything anymore or pretend to prove anything. You just say two facts that are totally unrelated and then have everybody fill in the aha. Okay, so let's try it here. There's a pizza shop and there are child molesters. Aha! Just connecting the dots. And oh, by the way, and Democrats. Double aha, right? So the aha here is a retired FBI agent put his son in the middle of a massacre that he somehow knew was coming so that he could run cover for the FBI, who the retired FBI agent knew would bungle the case and hence has his son there to cover for them. Why doesn't he just not bungle the case in the first place? Or unretire from the FBI? Come on, man. How stupid and insane do you have to be to believe this stuff? Apparently just as stupid and insane as Donald Trump Jr. Young Turks. Thanks for listening to this podcast. You're only halfway through, so hold, stay right here. Just want to remind you, if you want to get all 5 segments of the Young Turks commercial free, these are just 2 of them. Every day we do it. So go to tytnetwork.com/join and you get the whole 5 segments, 2 hours, ad free. Do it now. All right, back on the Young Turks. Dan Joyner writes in, wow, Anna's on before 7:15. Progress? Susan Newman says, 2017, the year of resistance. 2018, the year of the revolution. Great videos. Sure hope so. I hope so too. Great videos of TYT contributors and resistance marches during the break. Love it. A lot more where that came from. Look, guys, you got to be checking out Rebel Headquarters. So we're telling you about all the progressive events that are coming up. I've got 4 events I want to tell you about tonight. I want you to get involved. We've got candidates that are on. We've got people who wrote books about progressive movements. We've got the woman who made a documentary about the brainwashing of my dad. So if you're a member, you get all that anytime you want. You get all the network shows. So tytnetwork.com/join to become a member. But if you're not, that's okay. I want everybody to find out. either watch it live right after the main show, so at 8:05 p.m. Eastern, or go to TYT Politics, and they have all those interviews and all those segments. So youtube.com/TYT Politics, because we do have to create a revolution this year, and it has to be people powered. There's no big corporations coming to the rescue. There are no established politicians coming to the rescue, with the exception of Bernie. Okay, the rest we got to do all on our own. Okay, but the encouraging thing is we are. Look, I'm not ready to announce it yet, but I have 2 polls showing progressive, uncorrupted candidates now in the lead in races that, of course, people said they couldn't possibly win. And the real polls, they're now winning. Okay. So if we all unite, we're gonna rout them, okay? So, and by the way, when you're watching this show or Rebel Headquarters, share on Twitter, share on Facebook, share on YouTube, share wherever you are, make sure the message gets out. Last tweet for you guys. Danger Carlos Danger says, Cenk, if you're gonna be talking about all the things that are wrong with the Republicans in the post game, you and Anna Kasparian better be prepared to be here all night. I actually want to tell you a story about how we're also winning a little bit, even with a Republican. I'll do that either in Rebel Headquarters or in the post game. And Adam Vaught and Lanny Alden are our members of the day. Okay, what's next, Anna?
All right. Cape Town in South Africa has been dealing with a severe drought over the last 3 years. Recently, we covered this story and talked about it in greater detail, but we do have an update that seems like it's a little bit of a positive, but overall, Cape Town is still dealing with a drought that is limiting their water supply in a serious way. Now, Cape Town has just announced that its water-saving measures, which require each citizen to use less than 50 liters a day, had successfully pushed back day 0 to the 4th of June. Previously, Cape Town was predicting that they would run out of water by April 12th. So since they're conserving water and they're taking extreme measures, that day it has been pushed back. It's been postponed a little bit. Now, the 50-liter limit, just to give you an idea, is just enough for a very short shower, about a minute and a half, and a 1 flush of the toilet a day when other needs, including just 1 load of the washing machine a week, are taken into account. So they can wash laundry once a week, which doesn't seem that extreme. That's kind of what I already do. But 1 minute and a half for a shower. And again, their water is limited, 50 liters a day per person.
I mean, if you're a family of 4 and you could only flush the toilet once a day?
No, don't even want to think about it.
That's a disaster.
That is a disaster. Now, this is not only having negative impacts on the livelihood of people living in Cape Town, but it's also having a negative impact on a huge source of revenue for Cape Town and for South Africa, which is tourism. So at one Cape Town hotel, visitors who insist on a bath, which takes 80 liters of water, now have to carry a large rubber duck placed in their bathtub to reception, and then they exchange that for a bath plug. So it's...
What are they, shaming them?
I mean, honestly, if I were in Cape Town as a tourist and I wanted to take a bath, I would hope that people would shame me. 80 liters of water when the people actually living there can only use 50 liters a day.
And that's just for 1 bath. Don't take a bath in Cape Town.
Yeah, come on.
But I mean, this is the insanity of our planet right now, where we're celebrating that a major city in the world is going to run out of water a little later than we expected this year.
Also, tourism, both foreign and South African, contributes $3.4 billion to the province's economy each year. So there's a lot of worry now that because of this drought in Cape Town, tourists are less likely to travel there, and it'll have a rippling effect on other parts of South Africa, because oftentimes these trips begin with Cape Town and they move on to other parts of South Africa. Now, hotels have also installed low-flow shower heads, turned off fountains, and replaced cloth napkins with paper ones. Also, I read this story about how one airport decided to shut off the water to all of the sinks except for one of them in the bathroom, and there was a long line for people to wash their hands. So, you know, look, I think taking these measures is important. They have to do it. But this is, you know, just another example of extreme weather conditions that are exacerbated or created by climate change.
And the less money they have from tourism, the less money they have to fix the situation and to be able to bring more water into the city. So it creates a vicious cycle, kind of like the vicious cycles that everybody was warning about. But hey, if you're a Trump supporter, you don't live in South Africa, so I guess it didn't happen.
A little more international news for you. Russia will be holding elections very soon, and there are some videos that are going viral on social media, one of which has a homophobic message for voters. Now, the whole point of this video is to encourage people to vote, even though it doesn't really matter. Putin's going to win.
Yeah.
But the video is set on the eve of the election, and it begins with a couple ready for bed. Let me set it up for you, give you a little context to what you're about to see. Now, the woman tells her husband that she's set the alarm to get up and vote the next morning. He mockingly tells her her vote is not important, that they will choose someone without her, and that she should turn off the alarm. Okay. Now, at that point, the homophobic fear-mongering begins. Take a look.
Люсь, так, это что еще за хрен?
Я вообще-то гей на передержке.
Кто?
Ну ты чего? Сегодня по закону любая семья должна брать гея на передержку, тех, которых партнер оставил. Ну, неделя осталась. Если он никого не найдет себе в пару, тогда тебе придется с ним быть.
Закон есть закон. Послушайте, мне кажется, нам нужно с вами очень серьезно поговорить.
Я пытаюсь тебя понять, понимаешь? Я пытаюсь тобой...
So the point of the video is, if you don't get out there and vote, the politician you don't like is going to pass laws that allow gay people to stay in your home. I don't get it. But
yeah.
What doesn't surprise me is that there was a homophobic message, because for everyone who thinks Russia is this great place and doesn't ever deserve any criticism, if you could remember, just back in 2012, they had started passing laws that essentially persecuted gay people. So this is just a symptom of that.
Yeah. So by the way, homophobia is not the only issue in that ad. I don't know if you caught it in that little snippet there, but at a different portion of the ad, a military general shows up, which you see him with him and the two guards. One of the guards who shows up with the general is black in Russia. So they're going to send black people to your house to enforce the law in Russia, okay? And then they're going to put gay people in your house. And then the ad eventually ends with the gay guy in bed with that guy. He seems like he's waking up from a dream, but then it's the gay guy in his bed. So why bother? Is a good question, because you think we've got rigged elections, you should get a load of Russia. So Putin will literally not allow the most popular opponents of him to run an election. He just says, well, you're banned, and I'm done with that. Well, that must be convenient.
They'll make up nonsense criminal charges against his opponent, the opponent who actually has a shot at winning, and then that person is unable to run against Putin.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't even bother making up charges. They're like, you're just not allowed to run. That's it, I'm done with you, okay? But most of the time, the political opponents are imprisoned. Sometimes they're killed mysteriously. I mean, I'm sure Putin has nothing to do with it. Journalists covering the mysterious disappearances are also killed, or decided to commit suicide by dropping a piano on their own heads. So why bother doing this ad? Because Putin wants to have big numbers. So he can go out there and go, by the way, his main opponent, who is not allowed in the race, Alexei Navalny, the leader of the Progress Party, is urging voters his supporters not to vote. He's like, it's a sham election, don't even bother, right? But so then Putin wants all of his supporters to go out there so he can say, what, 80% of the country's on my side. Total nonsense, garbage. I get why the right-wingers like this dictator.
Yeah.
He's friends with Trump, and he likes to fix our elections like he likes to fix his elections. But there's some progressives who still defend this guy.
What I want to know about those progressives is, did they defend him when he sent members of Pussy Riot to prison for 2 years because they had the audacity to protest at a Catholic church? Were you supportive of Putin back then?
Are you supportive of Putin when his allies run ads like this, creating demagoguery to rile up his base to hate others like gay people in the country? What part of this thug right-wing dictator do you enjoy as a progressive?
No, Cenk, let's immediately distract from the conversation by talking about everything that the U.S. does that we don't like. Yeah. Even though it's completely unrelated to this particular story. But let's go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and by the way, look, you can tell we're a little frustrated about this issue. Again, Republicans I understand. They would love a strong man like this that blames blacks and gays, et cetera, in this country for their problems. They would celebrate it. And so I understand their motivation completely. But if you're a progressive, you are allowed to do and think two things at once. You're allowed to say the U.S. has done a lot of terrible things and we look forward to fixing them. And here's the policy positions to fix them. And at the same time say, hey, maybe Putin and this current Russian government doesn't have the best of intentions for its own people, for us, or for anyone else.
I mean, the guy murders political opponents and journalists. How could any progressive say that they're in support of this guy? He's nothing but pure evil.
And so, oh no, you guys are doing Red Scare, fear-mongering. What, is this ad great? No, let me guess. Some Russian bot told you, no, that ad is actually not run by Putin allies, even though it seems to support Putin 100%. It's actually run by Hillary Clinton. Whatever, okay. All right, so, and by the way, the person who probably convinced you of that online was probably a robot. So enjoy that. Yeah. So if you take offense, look, if you don't think any of that stuff, then don't take offense. Say, hey, listen, you know what? Whether Putin is a bad guy or not is not related to the different issues that I care about. Nothing wrong with that stance. Okay, it's not related. I agree with you. Those issues are monumentally important. You say the mainstream media doesn't cover them enough. Absolutely right. The Democrats are using it as an excuse for losing the election. Absolutely right. So if you're in that camp, God bless. We got no beef at all, right? If you're in the weirdo camp that you think Putin is a good guy and that any criticism of his government is somehow against the Russian people and is meant to distract because we can only focus on one thing at a time, meant to distract from all the other things that are going on wrong in the world, well, then we don't agree. And that's that.
Yeah. Back to the United States. Actually, we have to take one more break, unfortunately. So let's do that. When we come back to the United States, U.S. politics, some dramas with a Republican lawmaker who had a meltdown.
And by the way, they're deregulating the banks. That appears to be a policy position, by the way. All right, we'll come back and talk about it. Thanks for watching what I hope was a lovely edition of the Young Turks. Now, you know that is 2 of the 5 segments that we do because that's free. We want to have you support independent media and come watch the whole show that we do every day. That's 5 segments overall, no ads at all. That's at tytnetwork.com/join. Come become a member. Thanks for watching either way. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk, and I'll see you soon.